So we're up in here. We're here in your room here.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about how you work, and like, what does your job look like on an average day?
Okay, well, for the past while, the way that I've been working is I have someone come to me. I didn't plan on doing all of it like this, but the past like 4 or 5 people, they come to me with like just vocals and guitar.
Yeah.
And what we do is we kind of build up the track from scratch.
Okay.
So a normal day for me, it's more just like constantly problem solving, I guess,
Right.
because it's like we'll start with like a demo that they gave us.
Yeah.
Then we'll re-record the demo here to click.
Okay.
And so it'll either be them playing like piano.
Yeah.
I'll usually just use MIDI so that
Sure.
I can just like change all the piano
Yeah,
chords like however I want. And then just jumping into the booth and doing vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's sort of, we kind of just roll with it. We always talk about how we want an album to sound
Yeah.
before we start doing it. So
Yeah.
I have a pretty good idea. But I think one of the first things I try to do is just start to get like, not even necessarily like a whole drum part, but I've been working a lot with like samples and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to be using Ableton more than Pro Tools now because the
Oh, wow.
MIDI is like a lot faster
Yeah.
to work with.
It's the worst in Pro Tools.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've been using Ableton like most of the time now.
Wow.
And it's really easy to get, like, it's really fast. So
Right.
when someone comes in and, you know, we're starting a new song, they play it through. I have like the whole song. We might change the form of the song to make it like fit better if
Sure.
I'm hearing like a bigger idea of the song.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do is I'll usually start with drums and sort of getting a beat, and then I'll like pull out the Rickenbacker and just like start playing like a bass line.
Okay.
And I really like to kind of reharmonize songs a bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it's like a pretty basic song where it's just like 1-4-5-1 or something, I'll generally go to the relative minor or like jump around that way and
Okay.
figure out ways to like still make it sound like really good
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to like make it sound like, oh, there's a wanky bass player.
Right.
But, and then we'll start building with like, you know, trying out guitar. A lot of it is me just sitting in the chair
Yeah.
and just like noodling on guitar
Yeah.
until like we get like a part. And I'm not a very good guitar player. I would say I'm much better at playing bass.
Yeah.
So a lot of my guitar lines are like sort of melodic and not chords.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And what kind of artists like come to you? Where do you find these people?
I
Is there
mean,
a genre that you like?
I've worked on a bunch of different like genres. It's mostly people that I just know in like the music industry. I don't come from like a technical background.
Okay.
I was definitely a musician before I started doing this.
Right.
And I just realized that like, I don't know, for like a bunch of years, I spent a lot of time just like learning how to make my own music, which I like never released, of course.
Right.
But I started feeling more comfortable. Like I had started to like, you know, just get to know how to like use, you know, just plug in compressors and like
Sure.
EQs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then my roommate and I, we this is about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, let's build a studio in our living room, and like we did not go half-assed with it. We like went all out. We got this guy Matt Smith to do our acoustics.
Oh,
so we
man.
bass trapped the entire room, like that size, but like in a smaller room than
Yeah.
this. Built a double cloud, and we had a chandelier in between the two
Oh,
clouds. And then that desk downstairs.
Was this guy
and-
like a proper acoustician and everything?
Yeah, he's great with
Wow.
acoustics. He helped. He built our booth.
Oh, okay.
And also he did some acoustics at Union.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
you
he
went
was
all in.
great. Yeah, and we like converted an old office table into fitting rack mounts, and that's the table downstairs. And we had it for a while, and we had some people that were like like some artists that were actually coming to live in our space, and like they'd rent it out for like a month and a half, and then just like do their like half their record
Right,
in there,
right.
and then so we were doing that, and I was touring with bands, and I got kind of like burnt out from touring. I was doing it a lot,
Right.
and so
What bands were you in?
I was in a band called Moon King,
Okay.
and we were touring quite a bit for like the last couple of years that I was
Yeah.
in it, and then I also did some tours with a band called Austra.
Okay.
And then like before that, I was in a Toronto band called Donlands and Mortimer, and yeah, it was all great.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really started to get into like just like playing around on my computer and stuff, and then I started to get a little bit more serious, and then we built the studio, and I was bartending at the Drake at the time, and then I like kind of stupidly just quit that job and just started telling friends that I was producing and making
Good
and
for
mixing
you.
music, and
Yeah.
so I started off charging very little, and the way it goes,
Yeah.
and it was like a living room studio.
Yeah.
I kind of that both you and I, and Leon as well, like came from the music background side, like not
Yeah.
just like technical producer engineer
Right.
side.
Yeah.
Like we were people that were or still do like play in bands.
Yeah.
So like a lot of
Yeah.
people we knew, it's like, oh, these are our peers.
Yeah.
So it's,
That
I
is a
think
little
makes sense
rare.
a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you're like they're your friends and you're
Yeah.
on the same level in some way. It
Totally.
just feels a little more comfortable.
And on that note too, I was very not technically trained when I started,
Right.
and so it was like when I started mixing music, it would take me like 2 weeks to like mix a track, and I'd spend like
That's half the
14
time it
hours a
takes me.
day on like this track.
Is there an advantage to that, not coming from a technical background, do you think?
I think there's advantages and disadvantages. I think
I
like
think for what you do, there is.
I think for what I'm doing, it's good because I'm doing a lot of playing and coming up with ideas
Right.
for the record.
Right.
I'm doing less like I do work with bands too, but I do a lot more of one-on-one work with artists where we'll like that one person and I will like do a whole track or whole record.
Right.
And a lot of it is like writing hooks and like playing lines and like getting the sound. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of merit in people who are much more technically trained. I think that with that sort of background, they probably know how to run a session with like a band of 6 people
Right.
who all have like their own ideas of how they want it to sound.
Yeah.
Like for me, I still think that still takes a little bit longer, but I always like end up with everyone being happy with it, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So we're here at Candle with you and Kay, is that right?
Yeah.
And how did you end up here sharing the studio with this guy?
I can
over
actually
here?
remember the conversation we had. This is back when the Holy Oak was still open.
Yeah, we used to meet up
Yeah.
out there because I lived above the Holy Oak, so just down
Okay,
the street.
okay.
This is on Bloor and
So
Lansdowne.
what
Yeah.
happened with your acoustically treated living room?
It's still around.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's still around.
Okay,
And
cool.
So is,
Yeah.
like Leon's old space is still going around
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Born Ruffians were like using it
they were,
to like
it was
to
our
do
Beliefs and Born Ruffians jam space for a while.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, basically he lived across the street from where my studio was, and we'd run into each other all the time. Him and I had known each other for like a long time before that, and
I played with Moon King. For
yeah, you did a festival with us up in like northern Quebec or whatever.
that was
Yeah.
like your last couple shows. I think.
Yeah. That was a cool town that we were at. I forget the name of the town, and it was really hard to pronounce. Yeah.
I don't remember.
You guys can do this later. We're
Yeah. Sorry, but so we were sitting down, and I think like the original idea was like eventually like we were talking about how I think it's just harder for like bigger studios right now. I think that the people that play in bands have less money, and I think that it's really hard to like save up.
Whole record.
Do a whole record in a
totally.
and I mean it's just really hard financially to do any sort of record.
Crazy. Well,
Yeah.
the sad thing I've always talked about is that how the cost of an album keeps going down.
Yeah.
And the cost of a song, the amount that an artist gets for the song keeps going down.
Yeah.
But the cost of a Neumann, the cost of a Neve, of all the tools that we need has gone up or hasn't gotten cheaper. You know?
But I think that like for years, I mean, I just used an SM7 for all my vocals, and
Sure.
I got great.
Yeah.
I got good
that's
mixed
true.
tracks,
That's
and
true. Yeah.
That's, I mean, that is part of like,
Yeah.
like stopping on the sort of like what you need to,
Yeah.
like, what, like,
Yeah,
oh, this is
that's
a studio,
fair.
like you don't have this, and it's
Right.
just kind of like, yeah, because I do this for a living. Like it's
Yeah.
not just like collecting stuff. It's
That's
like,
a good point.
It has
Yeah.
to be something
Yeah.
that you're using, and
Yeah.
like the average person like doesn't. I guess to do a whole record nowadays, like what people are paying, it's like a $20,000 mic does not justify how much you're charging somebody to do a record. It
Right.
just
No.
doesn't really
Yeah, it's fair.
make as much sense.
Yeah,
That's fair.
And with like I've had I've done quite a few recording sessions as a musician, but starting to like move into like an engineer, like mixing or like producer role, I started to realize that with this little studio that I had, I could get good mixes. Like the room was pretty clean. And I started to realize that a lot of people had less money, and I could actually charge less because my rent was $250 per month for that room.
Right.
So it means that I can make enough money to pay rent at my own place,
Yeah.
and then easily make enough money. And it wasn't trying to undercut. It was mostly working with like just really poor musicians
Right,
when I
yeah,
started
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so, him and I started talking one day, and we were talking about the idea, and this is before you had the idea of splitting Candle out.
Yeah, it was more. We were more talking about potentially building a new space together.
Yeah.
We were like the only. I kind of said, and I think you would agree that, because we're the type of people like we didn't. I've never loved the idea of like selling like just like the studio and the room. Like to me, it's kind of like, if you want to come here, like anyone can obviously work here, but it's like, a lot of people are coming to us specifically, like someone wants to work with you or wants to work with me. So it would just make sense to have our own rooms. So the idea was that we would build a space that was like big enough to have like maybe 2 or 3 of us, each have our own room, and then we could like maybe share a live room.
Yeah.
And because I
that's
already
great.
had this space, it was like, well, number one, like building a new space is like, and especially with how expensive Toronto's getting and like how the areas, that's hard to find ideal areas, like maybe it would make more sense to try this first. I already have a space, we can maybe make this work here, and then see how it goes for like a year or even 2 years, and then if it goes really well, maybe we can start looking at a future space together, maybe get one more person involved or 2 more people.
Yeah.
But I think having that sort of like, I think what's really been working so far is having this a little bit more intimate thing, because to just have like, 1 or 2 people working together and there's just like a bunch of empty space, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What is this console? Like, where did this come from?
Oh, you can talk about it.
I bought that off
Okay.
of Ian Gomes from Union.
Okay.
He sold it to me because he bought the Neve.
Oh, okay.
So he had that in his original studio, and when I walked in, I just like my jaw dropped when he showed me. He had basically rebuilt it almost from scratch. Not from scratch, but like it was just in a very bad condition. He rebuilt like all the channels, fixed everything. I remember walking into that room originally and just being like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And he wanted to get rid of it to get the Neve.
Right.
And a few months later, Leon and I had found the space, and I was just like, if I'm going to open up a studio or it's like be a part of a studio, I want a console. It's like my dream.
Yeah.
Like I want the option to maybe be able to mix on it. I just want EQs. Like I just think that it will make it feel a little bit more complete.
Sure.
And it was a reasonable price. It sounded really good, and it's a Canadian. Well, it was in a Canadian. It was in the CBC in the 80s.
Okay.
So it's an 80s broadcast board from CBC.
Amazing.
But Studer, obviously, it's like European and everything. But it's 24 channels, 4 bus, and I've primarily mostly used it as a tracking board.
Okay.
But it sounds so good. Like the pre's. are they're not as characteristic as like a Neve or an API, but they're definitely not like clinical in any way. They're clean but smooth.
They've kind of got an airy sound to
They're
it.
yeah, they have an airy sound. They have lots of headroom, and they also have a lot of clean gain. The EQs are almost like an SSL, but a little less aggressive and a little bit more smooth. But SSL in like the nature of how they're set up.
Yeah, they kind of look that way. Yeah, totally.
This board, we wanted to keep it because I thought about selling it and had posted it for sale. But just because of like the way modern setups, like it's just going less console based.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to have for bed tracking and drums, and also for like stemming stuff too.
Okay.
And like I don't know if you've been doing tons of it, but like a few other people at work here wanted to like be able to take projects that people have done in like Ableton or on their computer or whatever, and like stem it out to the console.
Right.
And it definitely has a nice sound to it.
How do you have it in your workflow? Because it's up here in your room now.
You're not.
I like the only thing I really use on it up here is maybe the EQs once in a while, but it's more like for fun.
Yeah.
It's just really fun to use.
Yeah.
I always used to run the pre's. Like even if I was using outboard pre's, I would always just run into the EQs as well.
Yeah. But I mean, for live tracking, I love how it sounds on drums.
Yeah. Okay.
It sounds so good on drums.
Oh, so you guys do drums down there,
Yeah.
and you run them up through here.
So we basically have set this up so that
it's a convertible studio.
Like the way things are going, especially like modern day, it's like you may record a drum kit 1 or 2 times a month, and then the rest of the time you're overdubbing and mixing and producing.
Yeah. And that whole live room is just like pretty much empty for that whole period of time.
Like, why don't we just like make this like I wanted to create as much of a hub in here as possible, and the fact that we can both work most of the time is great. But if we need to do a drum session, we need to do beds, you can just use the whole studio.
Yeah. That is really cool.
It's just like
it's nice to have a control room too, like to separate when you're doing drums and hear things.
It's huge. Sure. It makes a huge difference having a control room. Yeah,
you can really dial, especially EQ, because a lot of people will never even like. I know a lot of people that depending on their setups, they don't even want to EQ like things while they're tracking like drums and stuff because it's just the bleed. But like, be able to dial in.
I think you can do that, and like I just think that with this board especially, it's just more fun to like mix the drums on the studio console than like just play it safe and just run it through like the APIs or the universal audio pre's. It's just more fun that way.
Can we?
It sounds great too.
Let's look over here. I'll give Jay a sec. Maybe you might want to. I just want to talk about some of this stuff. But I'm in a convenient little thing.
Do you want me to unpatch that at all?
No.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay.
You got your synths going in here?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, what is this guy used for here?
I use the first channel in it for pretty much everything as I'm working.
Oh, okay.
Like I
your
put like if I'm working, I'll generally like put my synths through it. But for bass, vocals, and guitar, I use it a lot.
DI as well, right?
And it's all DI. Like a lot of the work that I do is like just DI'd guitar and DI'd bass.
Okay.
And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, it just sounds way better going through an amp.
Yeah.
But if you spend enough time DIing stuff, you can get some really good sounds.
Sure.
You can definitely make it work.
You get really cool stuff.
The tube and solid state thing, is that a gimmick or does that sound, you hear it?
Subtle or something.
It's pretty subtle.
Yeah.
But the 11s, it's got a built-in 11.
Is it actually tubed? Does it have 4 tubes in this? Or?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's got a built-in 1176 style compressor. You don't have a lot of options with it.
Slow and fast?
Yeah, you get slow and fast. And it's actually pretty nice. I like using it on drums.
So it's like 1176, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's like an 1176,
slow, though, like just a slow attack.
Yeah, slow attack and quick attack,
That's really cool. Oh.
Fixed release or something?
Yeah, I think it's a fixed release.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then a filter. Where does that filter go in? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay. Beauty.
But I know a lot of people that have these in studios. Some people like them and some people don't. I've seen a lot of mixed opinions about it, but I've been super happy with it.
These are digital too,
Yeah,
right?
you can.
That is, I think that's a really cool
It's got
thing.
ADAT, yeah. So
I've seen that. This is a great thing to get if you have an Apollo or a Twin.
Yes.
Because it gives you more channels.
Yep.
More inputs.
I think it's, what is it? I think you have 8 digital inputs with it.
Wait,
So
you could just add that as an ADAT.
Yeah.
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 I should get one of those.
And also, when you buy it, depending when you buy it, you can get like a free satellite with it or a.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But you probably need a. Sorry.
I was hesitant on those pre's, but the stuff that you've been showing me, it sounds really
Yeah,
cool.
driven without compression. Sounds amazing.
Really.
Driven guitar, it sounds like so good, and you can really dial in the amount of drive, and it's even got a drive meter in there, so you can like plug a guitar in and it'll show you how much it's like driving the signal. It's it's set. This one's set up.
Oh, okay.
So you just set it to drive, and you can see how much it's
No
pushing the pre.
We see them a lot. I see them a lot online.
Yeah, a lot of people have them.
Yeah,
they're great.
Cool.
I started just doing all of my vocals through it as well too.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with it.
Well, I love the Universal Audio stuff. I have an older M610, which is like
those are great.
Yeah, and it's like a huge rack mount unit. The tubes just died, but and then I have the LA610, which I love. I'll never get rid of that. It's so warm and it's so great. What's this? So let's not skip over this. I love this piece.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it's expensive though.
Yeah, I got a really good deal on it. That's the only reason why I bought it.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than buying a lunchbox and 4 512s though.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. 512 sounds better. I think.
I mean, okay, so when I was looking for preamps, because in my old studio space, I had like when I started, I only had like a 500 series. Actually, that Dorian bought of you.
Right.
500 series 1073.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what we were using most of the time for like vocals and like anything mic'd.
Yeah.
But then like I can't even remember the other pre's we had, but we didn't have. We had a modded PM1000. And it was a cool console, but it wasn't the sound that I liked.
Right.
So I never ended up using it enough. And when I started looking into it, I was like, well, I don't own a console, but I want more pre's to work with.
Sure.
And instead of looking at like single or stereo pre's, I like started looking into these like, and I think you save money when you do get like one of these things that has 4 pre's in it.
Right. Yeah.
So I was looking into like the SSL one, the VHC or whatever. And what was the one that I was gonna get?
Vintech does one too.
Yeah, Vintech.
Yeah.
The Vintech one is really nice.
473.
There was another one that I was gonna get, which I can't remember right now.
Focusrite does a 4-channel.
Yeah.
Day King? No, I thought
Day King has a really good one too.
The
Yeah.
SSL, I think.
Yeah, I think it might have been the SSL.
Yeah.
You're talking
But
about
I wasn't like super crazy about it
They're very
at the
ugly.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the like SSL, like their stuff is amazing, but I found that like the pre's, they were just super clean, and I think that the reason why a lot of people get SSL consoles is for like the workflow.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
They're
the
not known
EQs
for
are
their
amazing
pre's.
too.
Right.
Their pre's are great too, but they're just super clean.
Yeah.
And then I saw this posted on All Buttons In. There was a guy that was selling his entire studio. He was trying to sell it fast, and that's usually how you get a deal on these things.
Yeah.
And then I went and bought that off of him.
I love it. So you're running your synths in it?
Yeah. So for that, I would probably run like.
Is this stepped? No.
No. I'd probably. So I'd run like drums through it. 100%.
Sure.
Like snares, toms even.
Yeah.
Or overheads. And then
a friend of mine ran overheads through it with ribbon mics.
Yeah.
And it's so nice.
Yeah, I mean,
I love
overheads
that
would be great. One little trick with it that a lot of people do is I have the pad on all of them, but that's just because I have like it coming out of a drum machine.
Okay.
But you turn on the pad and you just drive the signal, and it just
okay.
opens it up a lot.
Yeah,
It's like because they don't have output.
they don't have output. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have
It's
output
the
knobs.
Right.
way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet you if they were to redo it, they'd probably put trims on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have trims on my my API clones downstairs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, recently, I think we talked about this another time, but API came out with their new 312s or 512s have.
They have
Trims on them.
ADAT too, right?
Oh, do they?
Do they? Yeah.
ADAT?
Or sorry, the 312 like 4 Plus or whatever. They have like a new one out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got ADAT.
It's like
yeah.
a mixer or something.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that they realized that they probably do need to put trim because all the clones have trims on.
Oh, really?
So. What's this here?
Okay, so this is an MLX20. So I bought this. We got this from a guy named Mike Olson, who's a very old friend of ours, and he's done a lot of records in Toronto and stuff. And so it's not a really great pre by any means, but it does one thing really, really well.
Okay.
And that is, and for one specific style,
Yeah.
sub bass.
Oh.
So I use that for sub bass all the time, and even I'll run like software sub basses
Yeah.
through it,
So.
and
Just handle the low end really well. Or something?
no, so the filter on it, I usually turn it up to about 35, and then I drive the input, and it gives you almost the exact sound from Hyper Ballad, the Bjork song.
Okay.
You know that like sub bass that's just like all super powerful?
Yeah.
It gives you that sound, and I love it for that, and
So it
that's
is
the
a bit
only thing I use it
distorted?
for. If you drive the gain,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
and it distorts really nicely.
It's interesting that you would put a sub bass through a filter.
Yeah, well, it's got I mean, it's just
You
it's
don't want any other high end in there.
yeah. When you start to drive the filter up,
Yeah.
it starts to pick up like overtones if you listen like super
Right,
carefully.
right. Oh, cool.
Especially with like weird, colorful
LA
filters, I
audio.
guess, like this. Yeah,
That's cool. And it's 2 channel.
yeah.
That's
That
awesome.
second channel doesn't even work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's
But-
this little DIY here?
So I actually bought this off of Josh and Leon,
Yeah.
and
And it came back here.
it came back here.
That's why they invited you back.
Yeah.
That's why Josh
So
had you.
it's a DIY stereo 1176
Okay.
compressor. It was built by LP
LP from
Mastercraft. Yeah. And
Sounds awesome.
it sounds incredible, and it's so useful. Whenever I'm like mixing something,
Yeah.
I always I actually don't think I've touched the knobs in so long. I will just like link it and throw the drum bus through it.
Really?
And it just makes it so nice and punchy.
Wow.
But then when you're recording, you turn it into individual channels.
Okay.
And you can put like snare or like a floor tom on it. It sounds like amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's
I find it's like I compared it to like a purple 76.
Oh, yeah,
Someone
yeah.
let me
Yeah.
a purple one, and I felt like the purple one sort of almost was like a little bit more like those Universal Audios where it has this like a bit of like grit to it. I find that 1176 it's a little bit more like a VCA comp, like an SSL style. Like it can really like pump and like squeeze a little bit
Yeah.
more. We like originally Al lent it to us because Tokyo Police Club had done their third record here when we when we first opened, and their producer was coming down from LA and wanted a few pieces, so we actually had rented that from Al for a bit, just for the month, and he the producer I can't remember his full name, Doug something, but he had done like his credit list was insane. It was like everything from like Elliott Smith, like Guided by Voices, like Katy Perry, Girls. Like he had done tons of great records, and he told us that he liked it just as much, or if not better, than his real 1176. And I was looking to sell it, so we were just kind of like, okay, I mean, that sounds pretty good. Let's just and we played it more, and
That's great.
yeah.
It's 2 channels.
yeah.
What about
Yeah.
this guy here, the Blockbuster?
So yeah, my old studio was called Blockbuster Recording. And one of
Did you sue Blockbuster and shut them down because of the copyright?
Yeah. Let's just say.
Let's just say they're no more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember it was above a laundromat, and we were all sitting around like having a beer, trying to figure out what we were gonna call the studio.
Yeah.
And my friend Daniel, he was like, "Oh yeah, we were gonna call it like the laundromat or something."
Yeah.
It's above a laundromat.
Yeah.
I
And then,
better.
no, I love Blockbuster. And yeah, my friend Daniel was just like, why don't you just call it Blockbuster? And I was like, that's a great name. Let's just call it Blockbuster. And we like knew that we'd be like enough like under the radar that like we'd never have an issue. So our friend Noah got really into building gear from scratch.
Yeah. I love that.
And so he looked up the circuitry of an LA4.
Oh, wow.
And so this is an optocompressor based off of an LA4.
Right. So no tube.
No.
Okay.
And so I generally like it. It's a very weird sounding compressor, but it sounds really cool on vocals.
Okay.
So if I am like sort of experimenting with like compression and stuff like that, I'll almost always like try that compressor on vocals.
That's cool.
Opto compressors are really nice for vocals because they have like a nice like smooth natural attack.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, I mean it's just a really cool. And then so what I did after he finished building it, I have this like 500 VHS collection. I have like a million VHSs, and I found an unopened tape that had the Blockbuster sticker on it.
Oh, wow.
So I attached the Blockbuster sticker to it, and I was very happy with it.
One of a kind.
Yeah, it's a really cool sounding compressor.
DBX 160 XT.
I mean, it's like not a very exciting compressor,
Yeah.
but it was used a lot for rap vocals in the 90s.
Oh, cool.
I
I actually would love to grab one of these. I mean, they're $250. And
I used it on snare as soon as you brought it in, and I loved it.
You liked it on snare?
It added like a weight and punch that it was really nice.
I got it.
I've the only thing I've used it on drum wise is actually just toms.
Also, apparently people really like them on bass guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Try it on bass.
Yeah, I'll try it.
Yeah, because
what's this here? You were
I actually love
this.
this one on with bass.
Oh yeah,
this
of course.
peak limiter.
Yeah.
Oh, the Ashley. That's so one engineer that's been in and out of the space for a long time, Nathan Carter Moore.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a lot of like jazz and like post rock and experimental and choir stuff. Like he's pretty rock solid. If I ever have like a session where I think it's going to be a bit like elaborate or like I think I look at him as like an engineer's engineer. Like he's kind of a pro when it comes to that stuff. And he helped us with like editing for the Fucked Up record as well. He brought that in, and he does live sound as well, and just was just like, yeah, like I don't know, it's okay. And, I started smashing drum mics through it, like room mics, and it's awesome.
That's great.
It just distorts and like it just puts things.
I think if I were to ever find something like that, you know, in a thrift shop or a yard sale, it's like buy it and see what you can do with it.
Oh, 100%.
That's what we were talking about that today with those Shure mixers. You know, those 4-channel Shure mixers.
Are incredible.
They had one at Dreamhouse.
Dreamhouse. So I remember when we were doing the Pet Son record, Alex brought that in for us to try it, and we immediately just started running stuff in, and it was just like, it was amazing.
Yeah, well, I got to grab one next time I see it for $50.
As soon as I saw one, I was just like, The problem is a lot of times when you do see that stuff, it's like $500, like a bit overpriced.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that one I think is still flying under the radar a little bit.
It was just a synth that I knew that like it was the sort of thing where you can just get up, start playing it, and immediately get a sound within 4 or 5 minutes. So that's why I picked that synth as my one really expensive synth.
Right. Why do you like the desktop? Is that what this is called, the desktop units?
Yeah, well, I like them.
That?
I really like them because it's not like the way that I'm doing stuff, it's not necessarily stuff that you need a keyboard for.
Right.
Like you could throw it through the Arturia beat step and sequence it instead of using a keyboard.
Control, yeah.
And there's just so many different ways. And if you're using Ableton, for example, because it's so easy to edit the MIDI, you can take it wherever you want. You can.
Yeah.
I usually I'll take that down, and I'll just like set one chair up, and I'll just put it on the chair, and I'll like have all the MIDI like written out from a different part, and I'll be like, I want to use the OB6 on it.
Right.
And then I'll just spend the time just like going through and just like playing around with like.
Oh man. Where's that verb coming from?
It's coming from the BAM.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I
We gotta
hooked
talk
that up.
about that.
But yeah, it's just like you can get any kind of sound that you would want.
Can I play with this?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Here, I'll put on the arpeggiator again so you can kind of hear it.
So I'm worried about Jay's battery. Can you talk to me about this?
Yeah.
This unit, I've never seen this before.
So this is, I don't know how you actually say it. It's either OTO or auto.
Okay.
And it's called the BAM.
OTO BAM. Folks at home.
And so it's a reverb unit. When I was looking for like effects units, I didn't necessarily want something that was rack mount.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted something that was like a little module.
Tactile and close.
And I didn't want like a guitar pedal.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just,
sure.
and this is kind of
You're very
one
picky.
of, yeah. So it's like a really silky, dark sort of reverb.
Nice. Oh, what is that?
That's just the room
Oh.
size. Do you want to turn that off?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's very soothing. I like it. Okay, so the OTO, auto, and BAM, and the delay version is called
It's called the BIM.
BIM.
Yeah.
BIM.
No,
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, we'll get some B-roll of that because that is a really cool thing. We're running out of time. You guys have kept us here so long, but this is a really great place, and I think it's really cool how you have two things going on. I understand the purposes for it and the live room. I think it's really great, and so thanks a lot, you, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Josh,
My pleasure.
thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming.
It was a lot of fun. We're gonna be back again. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Jay.